this is crazy. There's no way I'm going to lose weight because instead of working out 5 days a week, I'm doing 4 and I'm eating more food. Like, is this female hormones? In doing something for me, I am doing something for everyone else.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Forever Fit podcast. Today, I'm joined by one of our incredible success stories, Amber. Amber had quite a journey, quite a transformation, and she was able to navigate the ups and downs and the fluctuations of life happening while being able to crush her goal. Amber, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you being willing to do the episode with me because I never know how members are going to react when I reach out to them. I was like, hey, come on the show and then we'll talk about your transformation. And it is daunting at first, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think that sometimes you're like, why does someone want me to talk on their podcast, or, my story's not interesting. And so I think it is totally an honor to be here and to have a conversation with you today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you doing that. And, the reasons I love doing these interviews is obviously I get to connect, with you and with members and kind of hear a more in-depth version of your story, but also because I said before we started recording, like we're all normal people here. And if we're going through something, there's probably other people that were in the same position that you were in before you got started. And now for them to see where you are now, they'll be like, damn, I didn't think it was possible, but we started in the same place and she's there now. So like, what prevents me from being able to do this? So
Yeah.
Do you mind kind of setting the context a little bit for people by giving a little background? It's like, who you are, what you do for work, and kind of what does your life look like?
Yeah, so I am in my 40s, and I think kind of for us, I started my plant-based journey shortly after I had my first son. When I was pregnant and we were talking, we were like, oh, this is, there's a lot of data coming out. There's some interesting Netflix series out and Netflix movies and stuff. And so we actually watched one and we're like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, maybe we should eat more plants. And I had told my husband before I ever got pregnant, I was like, marriage is terrible. Like, I've gained 10 pounds just being married to you because I had changed my diet to more match my husband, who's twice my size. And that doesn't make sense. And so we had included, more dairy in our diet. And when my son was 4 months old, I had kind of plateaued with weight loss and really was like, hey, remember that Netflix show we watched? Like, let's just try plant-based for 8 weeks, because we were talking in February of 2016 and we were trying to get to Easter. And so we're like, let's just give it a shot. And I had no clue what to eat. And so there was a lot of like, I don't think I can eat that. So we just did it. And so I suddenly started losing all this weight and I was like, plant-based is amazing. And really, I think the telltale for us was really my son, who was breastfeeding at the time, had a total change in like how he was. And his he was having a ton of GI issues and all those went away and it vanished. And for me, I was like, oh, wow, I'm losing weight and my son's doing better. Like, plant-based maybe is something that I can really commit to. And so for me, like, I really kind of started in this journey in 2016 and didn't really know, what I was getting into. And I think that there's a lot of stigmatism, and I faced it in my own family, about the word veganism. And so I just be like, well, I'm not a vegan. I just eat plants because it was easier to not have the fight with even people in my own circle, and just really to really start to find out like how I felt. And so we made it to Easter and we're like, oh, let's have ham. And I'm like, I had like the things that I hadn't had for 8 weeks and I felt horrible. It was just like, wow, I didn't realize how much better I was feeling until I just totally jumped off the wagon into the deep end and was like, wow, I feel like trash. And so really kind of started that process almost 10 years ago at this point, and have really explored and changed what we've done. But I think that, so I'm a pharmacist by training. And so I'm always looking at the science of nutrition, even though it doesn't necessarily fall into my quote scope of learning. I'm always trying to like educate myself about how do these diets impact us, because I see tons of people just taking pills to fix their problems. And
Yeah.
so I really kind of started to dig into the science because I was trying to figure out, now that I have two sons, like, what is this dairy component doing to them, and why don't they tolerate it from birth? And so really started to explore that. And I think that one of the things that I found is a lot of the stuff out there is like, oh, don't worry about protein. You'll get your protein and it's no big deal. But as a female in her 40s, I wasn't making any gains in the gym. And I think that's really what brought me to you guys is I was kind of stagnant in the gym, as well as my weight had slowly like crept up as kind of the plant-based foods that are more processed creep into your life as a, mom of two kids. And I'm a wife and I'm a full-time employee somewhere, and so it's just like it all kind of starts to spiral, to where you're like, I don't know who to listen to anymore. And
Yeah.
sometimes you're just like, I just need that extra hand, which is how I kind of got brought to you guys, was like, I'm just in this stuck spot.
Yeah. So many parts to your story. So first of all, thank you for sharing that. Out of curiosity, what was that? What was the documentary that made you want to consider to eat plant based?
So I always am like, what was the name of that? But it was kind of it was the guy who grew up on the dairy farm. Um,
Forks over knife.
yeah,
Is it
Forks
Rip?
Over Knives. Yeah, I just think it names of things, but yeah, it was Forks Over Knives, that really started those questions. I started asking a lot of questions, and as the years have passed, you've seen a lot more documentaries come out, and game changers, and you're like, wow, look how strong those people are. And so I think there's a lot more awareness of, people are more open. And I feel like when I first started, I literally had family members sending me a picture of like a tree with a kid gnawing on it, because they're like, yeah, you're vegan and you just feed your kids like tree bark. I've never fed
Yeah,
my kids tree bark.
that's funny. That's what my uncle used to tell me. Actually, that he's like, "What do you eat? Tree bark and fresh cut grass?" That's
Yeah.
like the actual exact example he would use.
Yeah. It was tree bark. I would get pictures of like cows grazing. I'm like, well, the cow's not eating another cow to get that big. Like, he's eating the grass. So there
Yeah,
is some kind of nutrition that's happening. So I think it is maybe less stigmatized now. I think as more people start to gravitate towards like foods that make them feel better.
yeah.
Um, but I definitely felt like very alone. My husband and I did it together, but it was just like us, and the rest of our families, wasn't doing anything plant based at the time.
How did that change the? I don't want to say the dynamic of the household, but how did that change how you guys eat now? The fact that you did that in 2016.
Yeah, so both of our kids are, I'd say they're 85% plant-based.
It's
Even
fantastic.
my, yeah, even my husband, he eats plant-based at home, for the most part. And then if he's like out with friends or something, he kind of picks and chooses. But our kids, are mostly plant based, and one of my two sons still does not tolerate dairy too very well. So it's an easy way to say like, this stuff's not coming in my house.
Yeah.
So it's extremely rare if like I do most of the grocery shopping. It's a rare day if I'm buying anything that is not plant based, just because it's easier to not have it in the house. And that way, I prepare a good portion of the meals and I'm cooking plant based. And so it's like, you can eat this or you can go find an apple, but there's not going to be a lot of other choices for you. So sorry.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I hope you see how much you've changed the trajectory of your family and the future, because it always takes, it's when a couple does it together, it's really valuable, because then obviously the kids are just going to follow along, but you're setting a path for them to eat in a way that is healthier for them. Like, how old are your kids now?
So my kids are 10 and 8 now. And so
Yeah.
we do have a lot of conversations about food, which I think is helpful because a lot of times kids just eat what's in front of them.
Yeah.
Or they gravitate towards like, oh, that person's got Cheetos, I'm going to have those. And so we do talk a lot about, let's talk about food that fuels us and food that helps make our bodies feel good. And like my kids don't eat the school lunch because it's so heavy in dairy, and light in anything of a lot of nutrition.
Yeah.
Um, and so we do talk a lot about how, when you're bigger and you don't live in my house, you can make all the choices you want. But my goal is that I've set the foundation for them while they're young, that they can make better choices when they're older. And maybe they'll rebel and hate me, but hopefully I've done something that makes them choose differently.
Yeah, no, I think you're doing a good job, and I can't remember what I was watching, but they were saying like four or five out of 10 kids is obese nowadays. That is a
I would believe it.
crazy statistic.
It
And
is.
I haven't, Ivy and I don't have kids yet, so I'm not around kids. But if you go to a schoolyard and half of the kids are overweight, like that's crazy. When I was in school, when you were in school, there wasn't a lot of overweight kids.
Yeah, I think when I was in school, I can think of maybe a couple of kids at most, and I would say even that they were just like a little bit chubby. Like now my sons have kids that are in their classes that are genuinely overweight, like fat.
Yeah,
They are quite large, and I just look at them and my heart breaks for them because that is a lifetime of heartache, in their
yeah.
future.
Yeah, and again, it's the responsibility of the parent and how they want to lead the household and the foods that they're going to allow in the house and be able to provide. And like you said, kind of my parents said, once you're out of the house, you do whatever you want, but at least there's been like a solid foundation of education. Um,
Yeah, and we've been of the nature of like try to pack the house with choices that you know are healthful for them, and not be incredibly restrictive of like, well, you could never have a bag of chips or things like that, but trying to pack those lunch boxes with a variety of things, that they then get to choose what they eat out of the lunchbox or in the house and stuff like that. And hopefully they're on a good path, and they've witnessed my journey through this process. So I think that's been good for them as well.
yeah, I'd love to ask one last question on that front, because I haven't had a lot of conversations with moms lately when it comes to like transformation in kids. My last question on that front before we dive into your journey is, how did you handle people's comments? Because automatically, as soon as you go plant based, you get people sending you photos or saying things. But now it's like, hey, there's a household involved, there's kids involved, there's your husband involved. So how did you navigate that?
Yeah, I think that some of it is a little bit of a thick skin of like, you can make your choice and I'm going to make mine. And I think a little bit of as I've gotten older, I also am just like, I don't really care what you think.
Yeah,
But I do have in since 2016, I have had family members who have cut down on their dairy. I'm like, well, that's great. You don't have to eliminate it, but you've cut it down. My dad went and my mom went plant based for a while, and so I think just really what I've learned over the last almost decade is at some point I just need to shut my mouth and do my own thing, and they can do their own thing and just be fine with that. But it
yeah,
is a little bit of a thick skin of just like, well, I appreciate your, your meme of two kids eating a tree, but it doesn't bother me. so,
Yeah.
uh, so maybe that's the joy of hitting your 40s, and you're just like, whatever, do your
Ah,
thing.
yeah,
Let me be.
yeah. That's funny. I'll be honest with you. Like I see memes or videos of people making fun of vegans, and I think they're the funniest thing ever. I know like a lot of vegans get offended by them, but I think they're funny. Did you ever see the one with Dr. Neil Barnard when he's talking about cheese?
Mm-mm, no.
So he's on the Diary of a CEO podcast, which I think that episode got pulled down, by the way,
Oh
which is like a
gosh.
big podcast. But he said in it that like cheese is as addicting as narcotics.
Mm-hmm.
And then the scene cuts and it's two guys with little plastic baggies kind of packing cheese, guys, like as if they're packing drugs and trying to sell it. I sent it to Chuck Carroll. He laughed so hard. Neil didn't find it funny, but I thought it was pretty funny.
Oh, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a well thought out skit.
For
Um,
sure.
Perfect. So I love to kind of jump into your journey now. So obviously we have the story of like how you went plant based transition and why you did it, and kind of how you encountered us. So what was the initial desire when you kind of reached out to us and wanted to work with us?
Yeah, so I reached out mostly because I just felt like, okay, I'm working out, like I was doing hit twice a week, lifting three times a week, super active, even though I have a very sedentary job. I was, very active, like on either ends of my shift or my days off and things like that. And I wasn't making what I would say would be any kind of substantial like gains in the gym. And also my weight had just kind of slowly like creeped up as it does during life. And,
Yeah.
kind of having that conversation in my own head of, is this, female hormones? Is this just the clock turned another year? What is it? But really had tried to kind of on my own switch my diet of like, okay, what if I try to bump up my protein? And in doing that, I would sacrifice my fiber or sacrifice some other, something else because I was just like, I can't eat enough. Like I
Yeah.
was sometimes only getting 13 or 1400 calories and I just was full. I couldn't eat enough. So I knew my body was just holding on to everything I gave it because I was requiring and requesting way more of it. And so I really kind of came to you guys as I know I need to eat more. You say I need to eat more protein, but someone else says I don't. So let's try to do something different. And I wasn't coming in trying to, lose 20, 30, 40 pounds. It was that like last 10 to 12 pounds that you're like, my body just doesn't want to let go of it, but my brain wants it to go away. And so
Yeah.
I really kind of came to you guys of like, I've tried lots of different things. I've tried intermittent fasting. That just gave me a stomach ache, and I got to a point where I just didn't feel like I was getting enough calories to really make a difference in what I was doing in the gym. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's really what brought me to you. And I got paired with Coach Sarah to kind of kickstart my journey.
Yeah. So it sounds like I think a lot of people we work with are very similar boat. It was more of an optimization, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not like you
Yeah.
came in and you weren't doing anything, you weren't eating plant based. Like you're making healthy food choices, you were being aware of your nutrition, you were already exercising, way more than kind of the average person would be doing. So it came down to let's create a game plan that would be optimized for the specific outcome that you want, which is kind of like those last like 10 to 12 pounds, kind of like
Right.
you've mentioned, right? Because I think from your high point to like now you're about like 14-ish pounds
Hmm.
of like shift in body composition. And looking at your photos, you can tell your core got tighter. You can tell your arms got tighter. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, it was weird because I had this conversation with Sarah a lot. I was like, y'all don't give me enough fruit. Like I've been eating a lot more fruit. And what I've learned in the 8-month journey is I like the fruit actually causes me to be like more bloated and I don't need that. I think in my journey I had like convinced myself like you need to eat more fruit, along with the vegetables. And so I had slowly like increased my fruit. And then I looked like
Yeah.
this, like maybe 3 months pregnant, kind of like walking around. And so like getting rid of that actually made a huge difference for me as well.
Yeah, I think there's people put a lot of emphasis on like one specific thing, like, oh, I need to
Yep.
have way more vegetables or way more fruit. And it's like, no,
Right.
there's fruits, there's vegetables, there's grains, there's legumes, there's such a variety of food that you can benefit from. So if you really go hard on the fruits, where I was like, well, there's not much budget
Love.
left in terms of
Right.
food for all these other good things for you.
Right. Right.
And people tend to go overboard on one direction, which, hey, I love bananas, I love mangoes, I love dates and watermelon. Those are all great things. But I think there's a time and place and a balance to have them. Um, so I was curious, did you have any apprehension with working with a coach online? I'm always curious about that because to me it's normal. We've been doing this for a long time, but I'm always curious to hear from members.
I think that I was so like I think for me, our my generation grew up as computers grew up. And so working
Hmm.
online wasn't a big deal. I work from home and I work online. And so I thought that was like, okay, maybe this could be a really good fit because I don't have the capacity to like go to the gym, or like I didn't even have the capacity to like log on to a lot of the calls because that was in my prime, like my kids' witching hour time. And so I was like, yeah, I think online could be a good fit for me just because I do basically pack my schedule as tight as you possibly can to get as much out of every minute of every day.
Yeah.
So I think online for me was really a good fit. I had apprehension of like, what are these people going to tell me to do? Um,
Yeah.
and my husband's apprehension was, well, I don't know if they can actually do anything for you. So I think we had different apprehensions of how we kind of decided, like, I'm going to do this. And I told him, I was like, I just really want to do something for me. Like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an employee, and I do something for everyone all
Yeah.
the time. And it took a lot for me to say, I want to do this for me. And then when I was working with Coach Sarah, she said to me, like, it's not selfish to do something for yourself. And I think that was really good for me to hear, to be like, you know what, this is for me, but it's going to have a ripple effect. It is impacting my family. And I have two boys watching, and they've seen me through this journey, as has my husband, and realize that in doing something for me, I am doing something for everyone else.
Yeah. How does your husband feel about it now?
I think that he's still, I think he's kind of like, well, you look pretty good, but not like I think he still struggles with like, what do you mean you're going to go work out? Like he struggles with me saying like I'm doing this for me, but he
Yeah.
still gives me the freedom to do it.
Yeah.
So it's just different. I mean, we've been married since 2012, so he's known me for this decade plus in a certain way. And now I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm doing this. And so I think it's just taking some time to go, okay, well, you're going to go off and do your workout and you'll come back later. And I do a lot of my workouts like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. before anyone's up. So I don't like affect anyone. But I think it is just different. And so that's taking a little bit more time to be like, okay, well, I guess you're going to be gone for the next 45 minutes. And I do a lot of my workouts at home. So I
Yeah.
think that makes a difference too, just because I'm not taking that extra time to, go to the gym and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It is a shift in identity,
Yeah.
especially when someone has known you for so long. And I think it's a good shift in identity, right? It's not like I'm going to go to the bar and drink some beers for 45 minutes. It's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna go downstairs and get my workout in at 5 in the morning. So, but
Yeah.
understandably, when someone's known you for so long, especially if they're married to you, right?
Yeah.
It is an adjustment, but people always get around to it. People are highly adaptable. They get used to
Yeah.
it really quickly.
Well, and I think too, sometimes it is like, it feels selfish to prioritize myself. As a mom, I felt like from the moment I had kids, I was like, well, I'm a mom 24/7 and I don't have any other identity, but I recognize that I do. Like I have so many more identities, and this this allows me to kind of optimize like how I think about putting food on the dinner table, how I think about, showing up in my marriage, how I think about showing up at work. And so I always told Sarah, like, I work out so I don't want to kill someone during the day, but I really do, like, it's a huge stress reliever for me. But also I feel really good. So it's like, why wouldn't I do that for me? Because when I feel good, everyone else benefits from that.
Yeah, I think not enough people talk about this. Exercise is one of the few things that you can actually add to your plate that feels like you're better able to handle what's on your
Mhm.
plate, even though you're adding to it, right? 'Cause it's time, it's effort, and there's planning around it. You make sure you have your outfits, you got a shower after and everything. But it's one of the few things that really allows you to build mental and physical resilience that does translate into your day-to-day life. You just want to
Mhm.
be a better person. You're just happier. You're more in control, and there is an element of roughness to it. It's like,
Yeah.
I got the tension out. Cool, I can go and be relaxed for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and I have a job that's pretty stressful some days, um and so I work for the Indiana Poison Center. I'm talking to people all across the state, and I'm dealing with really critical patients who are trying to hurt themselves with pills and chemicals. And so that, you take that home with you. And I think that, talking about that resilience, one of the really cool things that just happened a couple weeks ago is my son was doing a project at school, and they said, well, tell us about someone who's resilient. And he's like, my mom, she does really hard things and she's always there and she shows up. And I was like, maybe you didn't use the word right, but that's like a huge honor, to
Yeah.
really see like that resilience is being built, and my kids are seeing that. And I hope that, they learn also to be resilient, and that the world can be hard, but I can go to the gym and I just put in my earbuds and life is quiet, and I can just literally sometimes be mad, and it takes it away. The gym takes that stuff away for me. Whether it's hitting a punching bag or going, I'm going to lift this weight. If I fall to the ground, I'm still doing it. And so I think that's the cool thing about the gym is you can literally do it for yourself, but it can impact your life in so many other ways.
Yeah, I bet that must have been a cool moment for your son to realize that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because
And
sometimes,
I didn't know he realized it, so that was a huge honor for me.
yeah, hey, people are watching. Even your
Yeah.
kids, to the neighbor, to your partner. Not everyone's going to say something every time, but eventually you'll have a conversation with someone, or they'll say a comment. And it's like, oh, they've been paying attention.
Right.
And I think that's the best part of being a leader, right? Because you're a leader in your family, in your relationship. Everyone's always leading because people are always watching. If you
Mhm.
lead by example, just beautiful things happen. People pay attention, and then it helps to shape this new identity of yours, and it helps to solidify it. Right. Um, so you mentioned earlier in terms of your apprehension, what are these people going to make me do? So I'm curious, when you came in, what were some of the things that, because again, you were exercising, you were eating healthy, you're like doing a lot of the right things. So what are the things that we made you do that were different than what you were doing to kind of get you to the place where you're at now?
Yeah, so I think that when I was getting started, I started off with, the 2 meal plans, and I'm looking at that and I'm like, I gotta buy what? Like, because there was just like a few like weird things on there that I had never heard of or I had never cooked with. But also, I am not a meal planner. Like, I look in the fridge and to say, well, today we're having broccoli because that's what I see in front of me. So I never had meal prepped. And let's be honest, I didn't really commit to meal prepping. I just committed to having the right things in my house to meet my weekly needs. But
Yeah.
I never was like, I have 4 hours and I'm gonna meal prep. Like, I just don't have, that's not how my life works. And so when I first started, I think the hardest thing for me was to go, I'm supposed to eat all these foods this week. And I'm looking at it and going, that's a lot of food. Um, because I feel like I don't need that much food to fuel me. And so I think that was the hardest thing for me, was to figure out, like, I'm looking at Monday, how am I going to get all that food in me? And
Yeah.
so I had to figure out, like, where do I fit the afternoon protein shake in? Does it go in the morning? Does it go in the afternoon? Does it go after breakfast? Does it go before the gym? And so for me, it was really just figuring out how to get the quantity of food, because it felt like a lot. And the first few days, I'm like messaging Sarah, like, it's not all going in. Like, I can't get it in. So that
Yeah.
was probably the first couple of weeks of adjustment. I think the other thing that I struggled with, and a lot of people won't talk about this, but I will because I work in healthcare, is like the change in the protein caused me a ton of like constipation. And it was really hard to be like, okay, like I have 50 or 60 grams of fiber, but there's so much protein that my body's like, this is not going anywhere. So that was a really hard adjustment for me, to just, because I was probably averaging, I'd say probably 50 grams of protein, and I was going up with the meal plan up to like 85. And so
Yeah.
that changed, like, that took some time for me to adapt. The workouts, like, that was no big deal, because I did that stuff anyway in a different shape or form. And so I actually had to go do less workouts. And I thought, like, this is crazy. There's no way I'm going to lose weight, because instead of working out 5 days a week, I'm doing four, and I'm eating more food. Like, I've lost my
Sounds
mind.
counterproductive.
Yeah. Like, I've totally lost my mind. Like, there is no way this is going to happen. So I think those were the first two kind of like eye opening of like, what have I committed myself to, for the next, I started out with a 4 month program, cause my husband was like, prove it works.
Yeah.
And so those first couple of weeks, I was just like, I don't know. I don't know if I can get all this food in and do less work. It doesn't, it just feels like I'm going in the wrong direction.
Just a little interruption before we get into today's episode. So, as you may know, I run these shows ad free. Everything is self funded through our coaching program. So, the small little ask that I have for you is to simply subscribe to the YouTube channel to support the work that we do, and to follow if you're listening on audio. Also, I want to give you a free gift. I wrote 6 emails that will tell you exactly how to figure out your calorie goal, your protein goal, to help you improve your body composition, along with over 100 exercise videos that I've personally filmed, with a little workout program in there and some meal plans to help you get started on your transformation, so that you can lose your next 3 to 5 pounds on me within the next few weeks. And you can sign up for that absolutely for free by heading down below in the description and simply entering your name and email, so that I can send you all the information and the meal plans and the workouts. So enjoy this free gift and enjoy the rest of the show. Yeah, that's funny because, you think you came in, it's like, hey, I want to lose 10 to 12 pounds and improve my body composition. And these guys are going to make me move less and eat more food. I feel like I'm going to put on some weight if I do that.
Right. Yeah.
It's such a, it is definitely a mind game for sure. I think a lot of people struggle with a lot, like eating all of the food, because I think most people are used to like weight loss programs or kind of weight
Mm-hmm.
loss strategy, which simply means being lighter on the scale. Doesn't mean having more muscle and just losing fat and tightening up your body. But if you are looking to build muscle and lose fat, like, you need energy to fuel the muscles, right?
Right.
And that requires more food, which is more vitamins, more nutrients, more fiber, which, the constipation aspect, because when you have too much fiber, you can be constipated as well.
Right.
So making sure that you are very well hydrated helps to alleviate some of that. I'm curious as to when you got accustomed to eating all of the food, which again,
Yeah.
odd problem to have. What are some changes that you noticed potentially in terms of like recovery, energy, or was it kind of still the same?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest thing that I saw during the program, and I had talked with Ivy at one point, and she's like, "Well, you don't have much muscle gain, during the program." And I was like, "No, I have increased the weight that I'm lifting on like bench press and overhead press and some of these other, moves that I did frequently." And she's like, "Oh, well, okay then." I'm like, "No, I literally I felt like my lifting was um I was lifting heavier. I was able to go up in weight and reps, and I never felt like, oh wow, like I can't even stand up out of this chair."
Yeah.
Like, so my recovery was quicker. There were days that I did so many lunges, I'm like, oh, I'm going to feel that tomorrow. And I felt it for 3 days. But most of the time, like those
Those are fun
recoveries,
days.
yeah, yeah. And you're like, well, at least I know that I did the workout. But a lot of times, most of the time, my recovery was faster. And then when I was hopping on things like my bike when the weather was nicer, I was riding faster. So I definitely knew that I could continue to make gains. But I think for me, the biggest like eye opener was I told you I have two kids, and one of them is 100 pounds and one of them 60. And I had one on the front and one on the back, and I walked across my whole house and nobody fell. And I felt really good. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what this move is called, but I just carried both my kids across the house in, one swift movement without like, I'm going to fall down and break someone's arm as they fall off or anything.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like, okay, I am stronger because they're bigger and I can still pick them up.
For sure, because what are you like? You're like 133 pounds, and you carry
Yeah.
160. Carried 160 pounds on your back and walk with them. That's pretty
Yes.
impressive.
Yeah, yeah. And no one fell and we got there safely. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah. Next step, you got to lunge the whole house with them on your back.
The problem is this their legs hang down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's uneven weight and they jiggle too, so it's like hard. It's
Yes.
a lot of core,
They're
a lot
very
of
wiggly.
stability. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, it's like it's way more in your body weight that you were able to carry. Um,
Yeah.
when you talked about like building muscle and being able to be stronger, like there's so many components to that. One, when you're in a body recomposition phase, you can build lean muscle. It is
Mhm.
just not as rapid as when you do a purely muscle building phase when you're in a surplus, just
Right.
because we're in a deficit. So technically there's less energy coming in, but there's better recruitment of muscle fiber through consistent training and progressive overload. Because you're eating more food, there's more glycogen stored in the muscle, so therefore you're able to have like a higher output for your workouts when you fuel yourself properly. And then also like you are building some lean muscle as you're going through the body recomposition change. So like there's so much that allows you to become stronger. And I'm curious, like, what was that feeling like to be able to like feel stronger and gain that strength? Because, like you said, you were doing those exercises before, and it kind of sounded like you were plateaued a little bit or kind of
Hmm.
around the same area. So, how was it to kind of go through that jump, even though you were theoretically in a calorie deficit?
It was really eye opening for me. I so so I think that like sometimes when I would talk with Coach Sarah, she's like, I think you can lift more, and I'm like, well, like, am I supposed to lift till it like crushes me, or And so I think it was more trusting myself that I can go up on weight.
Yeah.
Um, and I can, increase by 5% or 20%. It depends on the lift, but it was really learning to trust myself of like, well, I did this in the past and I, maxed out at lifting 20 pounds. So I guess I'll just keep lifting 20 pounds. And now I'm like, no, I'm going to go up to 60 or I'm going to go up to 70. And so, I was in the gym today and I'm like, well, I don't see the weight I usually use, so I'm just going to go to the next one. And so learning to trust myself to continue to push and sometimes surprising myself and be like, oh, well, I guess I was ready to go up on the weight and I didn't realize I was. Because I think sometimes, because you do those blocks of 4 weeks of workouts, when you get to the end and you're like, well, I'm in week 4 and I've done this 3 weeks in a row, like, let's just see what happens. And sometimes you can go up on that weight and other times, it takes longer depending on the move. But I think that's one big benefit of doing them week after week after week is you do eventually see those gains, even though in week 1, I'm like, I don't know how to do this move, or maybe this is the right weight and maybe it's not. And so I think that by week 4 or 3, you have that confidence to go, I'm just going to see what happens. And I know how to do the move. I know what my body, can do. Let's see what it can do next.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the progression is week 1 you're kind of swearing at us, and because you're like, why is this so hard? Week 2 a little bit less. Week 3 kind of like, oh, I got this figured
Yeah.
out, and then week 4 it's like enough repetition that the body's like adapted, and you're like, all right, cool. Like, can I go up an extra like 5%, 10%, 20%?
Right.
And then you go up and you're like, wow, I'm so much stronger. And then we change the workout on you and you go back to swearing at us for week 1.
Yes.
And
Yeah. And you're like, oh, I hate this one.
so you just re-go through that cycle every 4 weeks, basically. But that is how you get stronger, right? Is you need
Yeah.
to give enough time for the body to adjust and become stronger, but not too long where it plateaus. And that's why 4 weeks is that sweet spot, which is like the main reason why we change it every 4 weeks.
Yeah, there
To
was
prevent
definitely
that
a lot
plateau.
of definitely a lot of swearing week 1 of like, I really hate this move. And that kept happening. But there were other times where it was like, okay, like there were components each week that were similar to the block before, because like one of the things I told Coach Sarah is I really want to focus on increasing what I'm bench pressing.
Yeah.
And so I had that in several different blocks or other moves that would support the muscles needed for bench press. Um,
Yeah.
and so there were opportunities, I think, too, to say, like, okay, my body knows what to do here. And so I wasn't waiting till week 3 or 4 to increase. I was, pushing all along.
So if you want to improve your bench press, what did you start at? And then what was the latest, heaviest bench press you did?
Yeah, so when I first started the program, I was lifting about 40 pounds. And I had just moved myself up to 60 pounds in November. And then I broke a bone in my wrist. I fell off a bike with my
Okay.
son. And so I broke a bone in my wrist, and the doctor said, oh, well, you need to really limit your like pushing, because it was a bone that
Yeah.
was necessary for putting the bar across my hand. So I was lifting 60, and I had just I think I had 1 week of doing reps at 60 when I had to cut my weight again. So that's still on my like docket, but I'm like, I went from 40 to 60 and was in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I can, Coach Sarah's like, you can bench press yourself. And I'm like, I don't think I'm there yet, but I now have a goal to continue with that, minus falling off of bikes, and breaking body parts.
Yeah. Hey, which that's life happening. Well,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
kind of is a nice transition piece to talking about the real like life journey of transforming, because a lot of people do wait for the perfect time to transform. They wait to have an extended period of time where life's kind of a little bit of easier. There's no crazy projects going on. And you're in that chapter of your life where it's like career, husband, kids, and everything is happening at the same time. And you've had to, make this commitment for yourself to take this on and to want to improve. But amidst life happening, there's also speed bumps that kind of happen, like breaking your wrist. So, was there any other moments throughout your journey that happened that could have caused you to potentially have some setbacks or some slip ups? And if so, how did you navigate them?
yeah. There's never a perfect time that is the perfect time to do this. I think that I had 2 major like problems during my program that I totally didn't anticipate. One was breaking my wrist, and thankfully, like it's healed quickly. So I feel like that was a minor speed bump. But my big speed bump was in July. We were on vacation, and I stepped on a catfish, and that
Oof.
catfish barb went all the way to my bone. So
Eeh.
on the second day of our vacation, I was having surgery while everyone was on the beach, which left me not able to do my, like, I walk every single day, couldn't walk. I was like, I had two, the way my program was set up, I had like 2 arm days, 2 leg days, and I had to modify everything. So, like, everything was on the front of my foot because I stepped on my heel. So I couldn't weight bear for 3 weeks. I think I was on crutches. Before finally I was like, I'm gonna throw this crutch across the room. Like, I just want to like get back in the gym. So I switched a lot of my cardio 100% to biking because I could bike
Yeah.
with my foot on the front of the front of my foot on the pedal. But it really, really messed with my mental health, not just being able to walk every single day. And so I was able to transition to biking just to give myself that outlet that I needed. So that was a pretty big speed bump for me that I did not anticipate, nor do I recommend while you're on vacation to have surgery, because that one really threw me for a while. But I felt like I had the tools, and I was working with Coach Sarah to say, okay, I can't do this workout because it hurts my foot. What can I do instead? And she was really great about making fast changes to try to make sure I was still able to get quality workouts in
Yeah.
without having to be, I did a lot of one footed things where I would kind of use my injured foot as like a kickstand. And so we took out things like lunges and those things that your foot is really smacking the ground with. And she really helped me.
I'm sure you're happy about that one.
Yeah, yeah. I was so sad. But yeah, she really helped me adapt to make sure that I was still like making progress. And also, sometimes when you're really active, I know you've experienced the same thing when you're really active and suddenly like those things are taken away from you. It does help you also get a little bit of perspective of like, okay, this is what I'm aiming to get back to. Um, and I think that that's helpful too, because what life can look like if you can do the things you love and the things that bring you joy and make your body feel good and stuff like that.
Yeah. And amidst all of that, you're still able to reach your goal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that's really, a testament of having that team behind you to help you adapt when sometimes it's easier to just be like, well, the doctor said I can't stand on my foot, so I guess I'll just sit around for 3 weeks. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think it is helpful to say, well, I didn't expect this, but can you help me adapt? And she also helped me cut my food a little bit because I didn't
Yep.
have the activity that I was used to. And so we were trying to play a little bit of defense of you've made a ton of gains, let's not just ruin it because I've got you, eating more calories and you can't do the physical things that you were normally doing. And that first week was probably my worst because I was feeling sorry for myself. Like everyone's out on the beach and I was at the mercy of someone willing to push me to the beach and,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. A wheelchair in the sand is a pretty tough one.
it's horrible. And thankfully, my husband was willing to push me once a day, but we had to go like uphill. And I'm
Yeah.
just sitting there like helpless. And so he was a huge help, but it still like I felt bad for myself because it literally happened. We were on vacation for 3 hours, and that's when I stepped on the catfish.
Damn. And how long were you guys supposed to be there for that
We were
vacation?
just for a week, but still, when it
Still.
happens, yeah, still it happens the moment you get there, and it was kind of funny. I mean, we were in this like rental house with like every staircase was like about the equivalent of two
Okay.
sets of stairs. So I'm like hopping up one footed with my crutches, and it's just like all the reasons you could feel bad for yourself.
Yeah. Hey, that's funny because I also had a wrist injury this year. So I was in that guard. I was in a
Yeah,
boot and crutches too for a month. The concussion was its own thing. But like the boot and the crutches is very limiting when you're trying
right.
to move throughout the day. And oh, your calves burn so much on the opposite foot, and your hip too, right? Just from hopping around up in
Yeah.
the stairs and everything. Yeah. I don't miss that at all.
Well, and I would kind of toe walk, and I'm like, this has got to be bad for me. And then I'm, trying to navigate the kitchen because like no one in my family was they were all eating like shrimp and stuff, and so I'm like, I got to cook my tofu. Get out of my way. And so I'm like hopping around the kitchen and stuff. Like it was different.
Yeah. Hey, you made it work.
Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah.
adapted for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So, in talking about being adaptable, like again, you came in, you've reached your goal, you've navigated life's challenges. I'm curious, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned over the course of your time with us that you are going to carry forward? Like, what are the main things that really like seeped into your nervous system? You're like, you know what? These things are truths that I need to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think what the biggest one was that freedom to really feel like working out is not selfish. Doing something for myself that ripples is not selfish. And getting rid of the guilt, they talk a lot about mom guilt, and it's real. Like, if I do this workout, I might miss snuggling with my kid or whatever happens in my morning routine. And I felt that freedom to say, I don't need to carry this guilt because what I am doing for myself is still helping my kids and my family just in a different way. So I think that's number one. Number two is I was making the feed myself enough protein and fiber too hard. And one day, Coach Sarah was like, just count it 20, 25, 30. You get to 85, you're good. And so I was really focused in and honed in on that. Like, well, what if it's 84? What if it's
Yeah.
80? And she's like, you're close enough.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I'm pretty sure one day she was like, just go like, wanted to be like, stop making it so hard. And I was, because I work in a job that you can't just be good enough. And so she gave me the freedom to be like, you're good. You're close enough. Like there's a range, you're in the range, like just let it go. And so that kind of bop in the head that I needed to just say, you're pretty close. Like it's good. And if one day it's a couple over and the next day it's a couple under, like it's fine. It averages out. So I think those are probably two of the bigger things that I walked away with. I came in saying like, I don't know how to feed myself. And I feel like one, I know how to feed myself, but also I'm learning how to feed my kids and my husband better. Because I think that as you get into life and it gets busy, your tendency is to go, well, what's the fastest, quickest, easiest thing I can prepare for my family? And they didn't always eat what I ate, but that was okay because I gave them the scraps of my tofu. A lot of times it's like, oh, you have
Yeah.
like, so many grams in your meal. And I think as a mom, like my heart swelled 10 times one day when my sons were arguing over who got the rest of my tofu. Like, you had the
It's a proud
leftovers
moment.
yesterday. Today I get it. And so I think like seeing my kids like really embrace, we had served tofu in our house, but not to the extent that I ate it in this program. And so I think like that was really exciting to see like my kids are arguing over tofu. Like,
Yeah.
okay. Like, that's amazing. But learning, like, okay, when I'm packing that lunchbox, I really need to think about what I'm putting in it so I can help them, move forward in a successful way as well.
I think those are beautiful lessons, and I think your kids arguing over tofu is a good problem to have.
Yeah.
It's not like a Kit Kat bar or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I
that's
think
also
people are like, your kids are arguing. I'm like, yeah, but it's over tofu. Like, that's an
they're going to
amazing
argue
argument.
regardless. Kids are going to be
Yeah.
kids, or it
Right.
depends on the reason. Yeah. I'd love to ask you two last questions.
Yeah.
One is, how was it working with Coach Sarah throughout your journey?
She was really grounding for me because, like I said, she was like, you're making it too hard, you're making it too hard. So she was very straightforward and to the point of like, stop making it so hard. Just do
Yeah.
what I tell you. And I needed that to to really be someone to just be straight up, and a little bit of like, I don't know why you're making it so hard all the time. And so she was really helpful, in that. And then she was great at, making adjustments to, like my workouts with my catfish problem or my broken wrist, and just really, making those like quick adjustments. So super responsive in that way, as well. And I think that, sometimes she would say like, you don't have to wait so long, like just send me a message. And so I would wait and like save up all my questions, and she'd be like, just ask me sooner, I could help you sooner, like don't wait 3 weeks to figure it out.
Yeah.
So sometimes that was helpful to just be like, you're being too hard-headed.
Yeah. I think those are all great things, and she's gonna appreciate you saying that because they do listen to the podcast. Um, and then for the people listening that are in a position that you were in before you got started, so potentially they had the same belief, they thought that it was selfish for them to take time for themselves to exercise. They, again, kind of were doing a bunch of things right, but they were kind of confused with a lot of the information. What is a piece of advice that you would give some to your younger self from, several months ago when you started, to be able to help them be successful in their transformation?
Yeah, I think that, I know a lot of moms in their 40s, and we're all kind of like, sometimes feel like we're swimming upstream, and to really just give them the freedom and the confidence to say, doing this for me, sacrificing, something else is not really harmful to your family. Because I think a lot of us believe like, oh, we have to, once we have kids, we have to give everything to our kids. If your bucket is empty, there is nothing to pour into anyone else's buckets. And so really, having that freedom to say, I'm going to do this for me because it's going to help my family. And I think that a lot of times that guilt that moms carry around with them, like, you just need to set that aside, and really just say, this is for me, but it's also going to benefit my family. And stop saying, like, well, when my kids are bigger, I'll do XYZ. At some point, you're going to be 50 and your kids are going to be gone, and you're still going to be in the same spot health wise where you could have been on a whole different journey, where your kids could have been on that journey, your spouse could have been on that journey that looks different if you do it a decade sooner.
Yeah, I think it's beautifully put. And you would also potentially be adding decades to your
Mm-hmm.
life where you get to spend that extra time with them if you start earlier, right?
Right.
There's no guarantees in life, but you can greatly reduce your risk of
Right.
dying early. So it does feel like a sacrifice in the
Mm-hmm.
moment to be like, hey, less snuggle time, or like, hey, mommy has to go
Right.
take time this 45 minutes, but it adds, the return on time that you get from a 45-minute workout could be, an extra 6 months added to your life, right? So like
Yeah.
it just kind of compounds and adds up over time.
Well, and I think too, there is a huge ripple. I mean, you talk about a lot about, helping 10,000 people by, 2030 or whatever the numbers are. And I apologize because I don't remember them, but
No,
um,
2033.
33. But
Yeah.
there's a huge ripple. I mean, I was part of your program, but there's ripple happening in my own house and in my own community. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned over the last nearly decade of being plant-based is just shut up, do the work, feed myself. Don't worry about everyone else. And so I have that freedom to say, well, I'm going to go to, Thanksgiving dinner and you're going to eat that. Cool. I'm not like, and
Yeah.
so this program has given me the confidence to say, like, that's fine. You do you. I'm gonna sit in the corner and eat my tofu, and I'm gonna be completely happy. And so, just really having that self confidence to say, like, I don't need to eat what you're eating because it's socially acceptable. And I think a lot of times we just kind of go, we go with the flow. And if I was telling my younger self, like, to just shut up and do your thing, like, I probably would have ignored it. But now I have, that confidence to be like, this is what I need to do for me. Like, I feel better. And if I feel better, I'm going to show up better too.
Yeah. I love that. Um, to add a little bit to that, Ivy and I recorded a podcast together to kind of like share lessons for the year. And one of the lessons was you train other people how you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same thing with nutrition. Like the whole live and let live thing, I think a lot of people struggle with that. It's like you could eat the steak and I'll eat the tofu and I'm okay with that. But they have it's like such a deep desire inside of them to not be okay with it. It's like, no, you can be happy on your side. It's okay. So the more you are consistent with that behavior and that new identity, eventually people are just like, ah, cool, whatever. They'll crack a joke from time to time to be like, oh, you're eating tofu or tree bark or whatever. But people will accept that that's who you are and they won't even bat an eye at it
Yeah.
as you kind of move forward in your journey.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, people like, and I was the same way. I was like, well, you should eat more plants. And now I'm just like, I'm just going to be quiet and I'm going to do my thing. And you can watch, you can not watch. I don't care. But I know the people that I care who are watching are my kids. Like, an example for them.
Yeah.
And I'm an example for my spouse, and he can make his own choice and my kids can make their own choice. But at the end of the day, they've seen what I've done, and I hope that something resonates. And I think when you have young kids, it's easy to give. But in doing this for myself, I'm better to give. I can give better. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think that's where I would tell people that if you're looking at me and going like, well, that kind of sounds like my life, like it probably is. Like, we all struggle with similar things individually, and we're like feeling like we're dog paddling the wrong direction. Like, that's life as a parent. And this, like, I'm saying, like, you can change that trajectory. You're still dog paddling in the deep end by yourself, but like I'm quietly sitting in the gym, like building strength, and that helps me show up better as a parent, as a wife, as an employee. And I think that, have that freedom to say, I'm going to do this for myself, and you can do hard things, and be successful at them.
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to transform and impact people is to lead by example. So
Mm-hmm.
just make sure that when you go to your Christmas dinner, you get a nice little stretch and you flex those biceps along the way. Are you
I
walking
did.
carrying the plates?
I did send a photo to Coach Sarah. I was like, "You got to see my biceps. Like, they've made some progress."
It's nice when you see you see the bump, you start to see some lines in there. You're like, oh yeah, it's it's motivating. It's motivating
Yeah,
to see your body transform. It's fun.
definitely,
Well,
definitely.
beautiful. Yeah, Amber. Well, I appreciate you for taking the time to jump on the podcast. This was a really fun conversation. I'm happy we got to record, and myself, Coach Sarah, and the entire team, we're really proud of you for your transformation because we know that this isn't easy. Because if it was easy, everyone would be super fit and super healthy. And so you've put in the work, you committed to show up even when it was uncomfortable, when it was inconvenient. You focused on doing the best that you could, even when times were hard. And that's the reason that you're in a position that you're in. And so to me, I wish you, all the best as you continue into your life, because I understand that we're not a part of everyone's journey for the rest of their life. We are just there to kind of shift the angle and the degree at which they're heading in. And so we're happy that we were able to kind of guide you in this new direction. And we know that you're going to be able to kind of carry that direction forward on your own, and then get with your family and with your kids. So thank you for being a part of our mission and continuing to spread the impact just by you being you and having those great biceps.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I've really enjoyed my time with the program, and I walked away with a lot of tools that will lead me, to continue to be successful. And so I'm really excited about that. And as my body heals, I'm excited to see what else I can do with it, which is really exciting.
Beautiful. Well, Amber, again, big thank you for jumping on the show. For everyone listening, again, if you enjoyed the episode, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on audio, be sure to leave a comment, like, and follow. And we will see you all in the next episode. Bye, everyone.